What if there is a place within you that is unharmed and unharmable? We come into this world as whole and perfect spiritual beings. We're born on planet Earth into a world that often teaches us that there's something wrong with us and something wrong with the world. Well-meaning people often try to teach us about right and wrong and good and bad. Many of us are taught that we must compete in order to achieve our goals and our desires. We get taught things about what it means to be our race, our gender, perhaps where we grew up or our socioeconomic status. We are taught means a particular thing. Many of us, because of that, believe in some way that we are damaged. But what I want to share with you in this moment is there is a place within you that is unharmable. And what does it create for you to hear that, to practice that, to become curious about that possibility that maybe you've had traumatic events that have caused you to believe there's something fundamentally wrong with you or the world isn't safe? What if you were to practice unlearning those and reconnecting with that essential truth, that place within you, that infinite beingness that you are? Maybe you remember a time in your life that you felt open, connected, filled with love. Maybe you even remember some events that happened in your life that caused you to separate from that essential truth. And now, is it time for you to reconnect with that, or what I call the great remembering? Have the great remembering of that fundamental truth. Notice what happens. Try that on. Perhaps you want to repeat to yourself, I am unharmed. I am unharmable. I believe that life is an experiment, so what I want to invite you to do is simply recognize the possibility that that may be your internal state, your true nature. And again, what I know to be true about you and every being on this planet is that you are whole and perfect. You are unharmed and unharmable. Forgiveness is a topic that we hear a lot about. Many of us recognize that if we don't forgive, we cannot have peace or happiness. And that is true. I also want to offer this. Many times the idea or the concept of forgiveness is deeply entrenched in the paradigm of good and bad and right and wrong. In other words, many of us believe this person harmed me and I need to find a way or find a place in my heart to rise above that and forgive them. Or maybe you believe that you have done something that's unforgivable and you can't make peace with that. What if, rather than thinking we need to forgive, we recognize that forgiveness is actually a shift in consciousness, that we could reframe the way we see the incident? Not in a way of not being accountable or not recognizing the pain of the event, not from a place of making someone right about what happened, but from a place of recognizing that we finally want peace in our life. For myself, I've actually changed the word forgiveness to making peace with the past. Is it possible for you to make peace with everything that's happened in your life? What would that create? You see, when we move out of the paradigm of good and bad and right and wrong, we open up to infinite possibilities. Have you ever looked back on your life at a really painful situation and a few years later recognized that as painful as it was a great gift to you? It changed the trajectory of your life. Perhaps it taught you something about yourself and the world that you were unaware of prior to that. So what if we could recognize that the only past that actually exists is the past in our minds? And what if we could take our power back and no longer blame a person or a situation for our experience of now? So many of us are swimming in the idea of good, bad, right, wrong that this may sound really foreign to you. That's okay. I simply want to invite you to look at the possibility that it's not so much what happened, but what you decided about what happened that creates what you call reality. Can you open up to a different possibility? Not from a place of pretending it didn't hurt or not being accountable, as I said, but from a place of curiosity of what else is possible. What I know to be true is that you can make peace with your past and have a very different experience of what you call reality. Many of us, if not all of us, are walking around with a narrative in our head, a critical inner voice that is telling us stories or beliefs about ourselves that are fundamentally untrue. I call these core false beliefs. Core false beliefs often get created very early in life. They usually start with I am or I am not. I am unlovable. I am unworthy. I'm not good enough. I'll never amount to anything. Because of these core false beliefs, we often develop strategies to try to heal or fix those beliefs. In my own life, one of my deep core false beliefs was I am not lovable. Because of that, I developed a strategy that looked something like this. Please love me, please love me, please love me. See, I was wanting a relationship, a job, a situation to try to heal or fix that core false belief. It was like I had my umbilical cord in my hand trying to plug into a person, a work situation, something to heal this core false belief. In my experience, when we are holding this core false belief, we are literally vibrating with the frequency of that. In other words, if we plant a seed of I am unlovable, we grow an I'm not lovable tree, and we start to see that everywhere. So rather than trying to change the core false belief, what I'm inviting you to do is simply create a gentle relationship with yourself. Start to question that belief. Start to have compassion for your younger self that developed that core false belief originally. This is how I work with it. I ask myself, when did I first start believing this, or where did this originate? Sit with that and see what emerges. How do I feel and what do I experience when I believe this core false belief? What would it feel like to live beyond that core false belief? And how can I begin to unlearn that belief and return to a deeper reality, a place within myself that is beyond any idea I have about myself and the world? How much of life is perspective? To me, 100% of life is perspective. Many of us believe that what we can see, what we can taste, what we can touch, and what we can hear is reality. What I want to offer is the possibility that reality is actually created by the projector that comes from us. In other words, we are projecting onto a blank screen. 5 people experiencing the exact same thing will have 5 different perspectives about what just happened. We often hear there's your version, my version, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. I actually don't buy into that paradigm, because what I have experienced to be true is that both perspectives are 100% correct. What if we were to recognize that I'm not right and you're wrong, you're not right and I'm wrong? It's simply the way we view the world. Many of us believe that we come to a conclusion by gathering evidence. What I'm offering is the possibility that it's actually the other way around, that we have come to core conclusions about ourselves and the world, and therefore we project that and see it everywhere. So if the conditions of your life, if your relationships, if your work, if what is happening in your life isn't exactly what you want, what I want to invite you to do is take a look at, how am I perceiving this? What are my conclusions about myself, my relationship, my world? What if we could begin to question those core ideas about ourselves and the world and notice what happens? What if we were to allow other people to have their perspective and recognize that we don't have to be right or wrong, that we can simply understand that we all have our point of view and our point of view creates reality? This is the great news, because if it's true that I'm creating what I call reality based on my perspective, I can shift my perspective and therefore shift what I call reality. I invite you to lean into that for a moment. Ask yourself, how am I seeing the world? How am I seeing my relationships, my work? What do you want to see differently? And is it possible for you to clean the lens of the projector and see what happens? Gratitude is a topic that we often hear discussed. Many people recognize that gratitude is a powerful practice and principle that can be life-changing. When I hear people talking about gratitude, I generally hear people talking about what they can be grateful for. Perhaps they make a gratitude list or they have a gratitude journal. And it tends to be making a list of everything you're grateful for. This is a powerful practice, but I want to explore a deeper practice, one that has been incredibly life-changing for me. And that is to recognize what I call the 3 levels of gratitude: grateful for, grateful in, and grateful as. Grateful for is, as I said, what many people practice. I'm grateful for this beautiful sunny day. I'm grateful for my relationship. I'm grateful for my job. The issue with that is, if I say I'm grateful for a sunny day, what happens if I wake up and it's raining? So grateful in is a little bit deeper way of looking at it. Can I be grateful in the midst of anything happening? In other words, can I be grateful on a rainy day? Can I be grateful for even losing my job and looking for how to find some way to be grateful in the midst of that? But the 3rd level to me is even more profound, and that is gratitude as, or grateful as. Can I be the frequency, the vibration of gratitude in the world? Can I shift from looking for things to be grateful for or situations to be grateful in and recognize that I can literally be the frequency of gratitude and watch how that changes my life? So my invitation to you is to try this on and explore the possibility that you can actually tune into the frequency of gratitude and take that with you everywhere you go. Is happiness a choice? What emerges for you as you hear that question? But before we dive into that question, I actually want to explore what happiness is. Many of us, if not most of us, have been taught that happiness is elation, or maybe what we call a positive emotion. It is that we feel good. What if happiness was actually more a way of being, a state of consciousness, a desire to live in contentment? In that way, can you recognize that you have a choice to lean into that? In my experience, we're either choosing consciously or we're choosing unconsciously, but we're always choosing. And so is it possible to recognize that happiness is our natural state? We came into this world as happy beings, and many of us have been programmed to believe that there's something wrong with ourselves and the world, and the only way we can be happy is if we change that situation. We see that running rampant in our culture right now. If this group of people will just recognize who and what I am, I can be happy. If this political figure isn't in office, I can be happy. What if there's a deeper reality here, a choice that you can make to be the frequency of happiness? Even if you're experiencing sadness or a difficult situation, is it possible to tune into your original frequency of joy and happiness and radiate that into the world? In my experience, happiness is a choice, and I'm choosing it moment to moment from the inside out rather than the outside in. In other words, people for hundreds of years have been believing, if I can change the world, I will be happy. The issue with that is it's never worked. What I'm inviting is a recognition that we actually are a projector, projecting reality onto the world. And if we have a piece of lint or a scratch in the lens at which we're looking at life through, we will see it everywhere and believe that it's reality. So we need to clean that lens to recognize that when we understand that not only is happiness a choice, but it's who and what we are, we can recognize that no matter what, we can be happiness. And that's the deeper reality. Yes, you can choose happiness right now. I am pretty sure you have heard the phrase, I need to learn to love myself before I can love others. There is a strong focus on self-love in our culture currently. I think this is important, but I want to offer this question: which self are we loving? Many of us hear self-love through the personality or ego lens. I love my personality, I love who I am. But what I want to offer here is a deeper look at self-love. What if, rather than saying I need to love myself, I could recognize that I am love? That I came into this world vibrating with the frequency of love. And through programming, at school, at home, at church, on the playground, I was taught all sorts of other ideas about myself. So what if, rather than saying I need to learn to love myself, I could say I need to learn to recognize that love is who and what I am? What might that create? It might sound like semantics, but it's actually a fundamentally different way of being in the world. Another thing I want to offer is many people will say, well, I can't love myself fully because there's parts of me that I want to change. So I want to ask a very simple question. Which is a greater change agent? Criticism or love? Disconnection or love? Judgment or love? Imagine a young child is having what some might call a temper tantrum, but really what's happening is they're having some kind of emotional experience. Which would help in that moment more? Criticism and judgment or love? So can you recognize that love is actually a greater change agent than criticism? So rather than thinking I can't love parts of myself I want to change, I can ask the question, what would love do here? Can I love those parts of myself and see if that is actually moving more toward the person that I am becoming? So rather than saying I'm going to learn to love myself, you can say to yourself, I am going to remember that love is who and what I fundamentally am. Do you know your purpose? When you think of purpose, do you think of an activity or a role? Most of us in our culture are taught that our purpose is an action. What if, rather than thinking our purpose is a role that we play or an activity that we do in the world, we could recognize that a deeper level of purpose is knowing ourselves, who and what we truly are, who we've come here to be rather than what we've come here to do? What if you could get in touch with an essential self within you that is whole and perfect? What if our purpose could be love? What if our purpose could be joy? What if, rather than thinking a specific activity is your purpose, you could recognize that it's more about how you're being than what you're doing, and anything that you're doing can be infused with the love that you are, the joy that you are. In one workshop not long ago that I was facilitating, I asked people to get in touch with the most profound life-changing moment, the most positive transformational experience of their life. We went into a short meditation. People got in touch with that. I invited them to write it down and then share with another person what that life-changing moment was. What was it about that life-changing moment that affected you in such a beautiful way? And then I asked, what if that is your purpose, to bring that to the world. In my own experience, I had a profound shift in consciousness when I was in Varanasi, India. The spiritual energy of that place, along with a lot of different factors, created this profound shift in my consciousness. Because this was so powerful for me, I recognized that my outer purpose was somehow linked to assisting others in having a profound spiritual experience. So rather than thinking, what do I need to do in order to be happy? What do I need to do in order to become fulfilled? You could shift that to, who have I come here to be? Let me rest in that greater reality. What are the life-changing moments in your life? Can you bring those into the world from this place of wholeness? Many of us have a destination addiction. Once I get that degree, I'll be happy. Once I get the perfect partner, I can be happy. Truly living on purpose is knowing deeply who and what we are, and that we are the ones we've been waiting for. And it's not about what we need to get from the world in order to be happy. It's what we can offer from this place of spiritual wholeness. Only ego would want ego to die. When I heard this from Dr. Sue Morter, it changed my life. I remember thinking and feeling, wow, there's a profound truth. I leaned into that. I explored it. In many spiritual circles, we hear people saying the ego must die. We must be rid of the ego. So let's start with, what is ego? Ego, simply said, is our personality self, our beliefs, our ideas, our perspectives. What if there's nothing fundamentally wrong with the ego? In my experience, the issue is when I believe I am my ego rather than I have an ego, is when issues start to happen. That's when we have conflict, literal war. This is mine. That personality self, that mind-based reality, causes a great deal of conflict. And what if, rather than thinking we need to get rid of the ego, we can recognize that ego can be a servant or even a gift? Because in the awakened state, ego becomes a delivery system for spirit. So what are your unique skills and talents that live in ego? Here's a perfect example of this. If you know Tony Robbins, you know he's one of the most energized, enthusiastic people on the planet. His unique skills allow him to be that energy, to be that force of nature. Now imagine Mother Teresa for a moment. Gentle, loving, open. Her unique skills are that. Imagine for a moment that we tried to get Mother Teresa to go on stage in front of 10,000 people with that music pumping like Tony Robbins does. So you see, there's nothing fundamentally wrong with either one of those egos. They can be a delivery system for a profound experience of spirit. So what are your unique skills and talents? What if you were to recognize that you have an ego, you have opinions, you have a personality, but it's not who and what you are? So who are you? What are you? And how can you use your personality, your skills, and your talents to deliver that into the world? To me, that is the greatest gift, knowing who I am and allowing my personality to bring that into the world, to make a profound difference on planet Earth. Many of us have been programmed to believe that finding answers is important. Our entire educational system is built on seeking and finding specific answers to problems or situations. Science is often seeking the answer. Religion is often providing an answer. What if I were to tell you that in addition to that, you could also back off of seeking answers and begin to question everything? This has changed my life dramatically because I recognized at some point that if I continue to see the world in the same way, I will continue to get the same results. Nothing changes if nothing changes. And as we've often heard, life begins at the end of our comfort zone. So why is this important? I may have come to conclusions. I may have decided that the answer is this or the answer is that. Perhaps that is keeping us stuck in a particular paradigm or a way of being. So questions open us up rather than constrict. Do you want a life that has more openness? Would you like to open to some infinite possibilities? If so, I invite you to practice what I call living in the question. Choose an open-ended question or two and live in that question. You want to choose questions that are empowering, like what else is possible here? For example, if you are going through a breakup or a loss of a job, rather than saying, why does this keep happening to me? What if you were to say, I wonder what is wanting to emerge here? So you might set a timer for 10 minutes, sit down in meditation, live in a question like, what is next for me? Who do I want to connect with today? Or you can choose a question and ask yourself that question throughout the day. In closing, I want to give you a few of my very favorite questions. What else is possible? How does it get even better than this? Who have I come here to be? What if the world is a kind and loving place? So I invite you to notice if your mind is seeking answers. Perhaps you can pause and open up to the possibility that questions will actually help you step into an infinite and abundant life. We are living in a time that has a strong focus on opinions and sharing opinions. We have entire businesses, TV shows, websites dedicated to sharing opinions. And while there is nothing inherently wrong with sharing opinions, what I see happening is many of us are in what I call the opinion trap. What if I were to tell you that you are much more than just your opinion? And if I'm not my opinions, perhaps I don't need to defend them in the way I thought I once did. Scrolling through social media, you can recognize that what is happening right now in our culture is people sharing their opinion, their perspective, and it actually becomes quite brutal. I have a very simple question. Is this highly opinionating culture helping us to feel more connected or more distant? Is our opinionating culture allowing us to hear another person's point of view? I once took a spiritual challenge to go 30 days without an opinion. Think about that for a moment. 30 days without an opinion. I want to be really transparent about what happened. I went about 30 seconds, and then I realized that my mind was constantly opinionating. And so even though I wasn't verbalizing my opinion or sharing my opinion on social media, I was holding the frequency or the energy of, I am right. And if I am right, that must make you wrong. Every war, every relationship issue, every issue in the workplace is often created because of opinions that are in conflict. Many of us are at war with ourselves and the world, and we might not even realize it. So what do we do with this? Because people say to me, why on earth would you say we don't need opinions? What I want to offer is this. Our mind is constantly opinionating. I thought the intention was to quiet the mind, to stop it from having opinions. But what I've now recognized is that asking the mind to stop opinionating is like asking the lungs to stop breathing or the heart to stop pumping blood. So I can witness or recognize my opinions for what they are, a point of view, a perspective, and then ask myself the question, is it important that I share this right now? Is this going to bring me closer to the person that I am opinionating at? I think the answer is so simple, it almost doesn't need to be spoken. So I'm inviting you to take a look at what gets created when you have your opinions and simply rest in this question. What else is possible? You might have heard about the law of attraction. Maybe you've practiced it. Maybe you've tried it on. Perhaps you've gotten some really remarkable results from it. In my experience, when I discovered the law of attraction, I recognized that I could create many things in my life that I didn't understand were in my power to create. But what I also realized was this. I did the vision board, I put everything that I wanted to create, I held those thoughts, I knew I could manifest them. And quite frankly, I did manifest almost everything on the board. But what I came to recognize is that all of that manifested, but it didn't change the way I felt. So if you've practiced the law of attraction and you've gotten either mixed results or you've decided it doesn't work, or perhaps you did get what you wanted and you asked the question like I did, is this all there is? I want to invite a new possibility into this conversation. What if, rather than the law of attraction, we could practice what I call the law of radiance? So rather than thinking I need to change my thinking or the energy I'm holding so I will attract what I want, what if I could recognize that it's already within me? Love is who you are. Peace is who you are. You are a whole and perfect person. What might happen if we were to know that and begin to radiate that into the world? Do you hear how different that might be? When I shifted from the law of attraction to the law of radiance, everything in my life shifted. Because I recognized the greatest paradox. When I did the inner work of recognizing that everything I've ever desired is already within me, and I began to radiate that into the world, the paradox was suddenly all those things that I wanted to attract did show up, but in a profoundly different way. Because I knew I didn't need the perfect relationship in order to be whole. Wholeness is who I am. Radiating that wholeness, I found myself attracted to, rather than attracting, relationships that reflected back that wholeness. If you want more money in your life, rather than imagining money coming to you, can you radiate the frequency of abundance? I am so grateful for everything I have. I don't need anything from the world because I know who and what I am. It is an experiment that I invite you to try. Say to yourself, I am whole and perfect. I am the one I've been waiting for. I am here to be the frequency of love, abundance, and infinite possibilities in the world. In my life, it brought me a great deal of peace and satisfaction, and that's what I want for you.